Hello everyone, welcome to my channel BOMBSHELL Gossip 24. Lee and Finn tell Poppy she's going to be a grandma and Deke becomes HFTF's new designer. Finn's expression hovered between anxiety and excitement as he stood near the wide window. His mother, Lee Finnegan, came in briskly, calm and professional, her hospital scrubs still spotless from her morning shift. "Finn, we need to talk about Poppy," she stated in a gentle yet clipped manner. Sensing that this was not about patient updates or hospital scheduling, he turned. "You already informed me that she has been preoccupied lately, Mom. But isn't this something else?" Lee inhaled deeply. "Indeed. It concerns Luna." Tension erupted in the room as soon as the name was spoken. Luna was a young woman whose heartache and blunders had broken reputations, tested loyalty, and shattered families. At last, Lee softened her voice and stated, "She's pregnant, Finn. That implies that your Aunt Poppy will soon become a grandmother." Finn stopped. The low hum of the office lights was the only sound to break the eerie calm between them. The internal struggle of Finn. He combed through his hair, trying to make sense of the flood of feelings. He had previously backed the young designer Luna, but she was now embroiled in scandal and legal issues. Poppy, her mother, would immediately be thrown into the spotlight, something she had spent her entire life trying to avoid. Finn remarked, almost in a whisper, "Mom, is she aware yet?" Lee gave a headshake. "No. She remains in her flat. I suggested that we inform her together. Her family deserves to tell her." Feeling the weight of what lay ahead, Finn nodded. The tiny but exquisitely furnished room was filled with the gentle ringing of wind chimes. Poppy was humming softly as she stood at her vanity, oblivious to the emotional storm that was about to burst through her door. She was expecting Luna, so she grinned when the knock came. "You're early, sweetie." She opened the door and called. However, when she saw Finn and Lee instead, her smile wavered. "Finn. Lee. What's the matter?" She became agitated at the first sight of her nephew and sister-in-law together, gloomy and reluctant. Lee made a soft motion. "Can we enter, Poppy?" Poppy nodded, a little shaky in her voice. "Obviously." Finn sat opposite her, trying to think of anything to say. "This isn't easy for any of us to say, but Luna is pregnant," he started. For Poppy, everything seemed to stop. Poppy's answer. She reached for her mouth. "No. That isn't possible. She hasn't spoken to me at all." Lee took a step forward. "It was verified this morning. The test was administered by Bridget. There isn't an error." Poppy's eyes filled with tears as the reality struck in. Her voice cracked as she turned away. "My little girl, my baby." Lee's tone softened, which is unusual for the typically severe physician. "You must have strength for her, Poppy. She will require your assistance." Her shoulder was touched by Finn. "You're going to be a grandmother soon." Like a whisper of destiny, the word grandmother kept repeating in Poppy's head. Despite her free-spirited personality, Luna was very affected by the idea of her daughter becoming pregnant, especially after everything she had been through. Poppy stood up after a moment. She firmly stated, "Then I'll stand by her. No matter what." Lee and Finn exchanged a brief look that was equal parts proud and worried. Poppy had a strong sense of loyalty, but she was also impetuous. Another area of Forrester was a hive of activity, while another family was dealing with generational turmoil. Hope Logan's eyes showed fatigue, but she was standing in front of a rack of hope for the future, HFTF, designs. Deacon Sharp, who was unexpectedly well-groomed in a clean blazer, was studying a sketchpad across the room as if it were a treasure map. "I requested you to examine the designs rather than take over the entire project," Deacon, Hope groaned. With that recognizable rebellious charm, he smiled. "Hey, stop pretending that you're not impressed. These lines? Audacious. Edgy. Similar to me." Hope chuckled, but her eyes were full with admiration. "You genuinely believe you can manage being a member of HFTF?" Deacon inclined towards him. "Not merely a portion of it, my love. I'd like to create it." Hope blinked. "You? My father? Creating?" Deacon displayed a clean, contemporary, and surprisingly well-made fashion sketch. "Don't you think everyone deserves a second act?" Hope's grin grew softer. "You're not kidding." He gave a nod. "Very serious. I've seen you start this line from the beginning. You showed me that fashion is about redemption rather than simply fabric. To make that a reality, I have some original ideas. Hope's choice. Hope felt a change in herself as she looked over the design once more. Her father, who had committed more errors than most, had found his calling again. Perhaps this was what she needed, and perhaps it was what he needed. At last, she said, "All right, Dad. You're in. However, if this goes wrong." Deacon chuckled. "I'll accept full responsibility after that. Scout's honor." Hope grinned and shook her head. "You are not honorable at all." "Untrue," he shot a wink. "You are evidence that I did one thing correctly." Ridge, who would never publicly acknowledge it, was silently impressed as he watched them giggle together from the doorway. Deacon Sharp, a Forrester designer? It was audacious. It was risky. It had a Forrester vibe. Whispers filled the office. Nobody wanted the news of Luna's pregnancy to spread so quickly. With her arms folded, Steffi Forrester took a seat across from Ridge. "This is going to be a disaster, Dad." Poppy is emotional, Lee is enraged, and Finn is once more stuck in the midst. Ridge let out a long sigh and nodded. Deacon is now interested in designing for Hope's collection. Los Angeles is in a state of disarray. Steffi's mouth tightened. The company's reputation cannot be ruined by this controversy. If something dubious is connected to Luna's pregnancy, Ridge cut in, "We deal with it. Silently. With empathy." Steffi smirked doubtfully. "When did we start being quiet?" With a laugh, Ridge got up to gaze out the window. "Since it's your husband's family on the line." Poppy was sitting by herself on the couch, gazing at an old picture of Luna as a young child. Her heart hoped for the future as much as for her daughter. Finn slipped in as the door opened. "Now she's sleeping," he replied quietly. "According to Bridget, she will be all right. At least physically." Poppy's eyes gleamed as she gazed up. "And on an emotional level?" Finn paused. "She is afraid. But you know, I told her." Poppy gave a small smile. "All right. I'll stay by her side the entire time." Finn gave a nod. "That is the role of family." Then, in one of her rare moments of openness, Poppy muttered, "Thank you, Finn. For me, for her, for being there." He grinned. Everyone needs another chance. The thrill of fresh starts persisted even though the office was almost empty now. Standing beside the design table by himself, Deacon drew another gown that was modeled by Hope. The faint sound of a sewing machine nearby mixed with his steady humming. Behind him, Hope emerged. "You remained late." He didn't raise his head. "You never create anything valuable while you're at work." Admiring the sketch, she grinned. "This is what you're actually doing." At last, he looked her in the eye. "Yes, for once. I'm doing it correctly." Hope's face softened, displaying a mixture of pride and incredulity. "Hi Dad, welcome to the family business." Lives had changed again by the time night fell over Los Angeles. By being honest with Poppy, Lee had begun a new chapter that neither lady was prepared for. The Finnegan family would either get closer or more apart as a result of Luna's pregnancy. Deacon Sharp, meantime, had discovered a new form of atonement by creation rather than repentance or confession. What about Hope? Her brand was resurrected as she stood between the past and the future, witnessing her father's self-discovery. A beacon of chaos, love, and the kind of drama that only the bold and the beautiful could provide. The Forrester skyscraper gleamed softly high above the city. Poppy reacted startlingly to Luna's survival. Los Angeles never truly slept. The city hummed with secrets behind the glitz of Forrester creations and behind the laughter that reverberated in the mansions of Beverly Hills. And the world of the Finnegan family was on the verge of turning upside down on this specific morning. Poppy Nozawa has been plagued by grief like a persistent shadow for weeks. She thought her daughter, Luna, was gone. Luna's soul had been crushed by the heartbreaking news that she was supposedly dead behind bars. Poppy, once vivacious and free-spirited, has become a ghost of herself, wavering between denial and sorrow. However, fate had more in store for her. Day in Poppy's apartment. A half-empty glass of wine on the table was illuminated by the early light that came through the gauzy curtains. Cradling Luna's old scarf, a delicate pink silk item embroidered with small silver moons, Poppy sat curled up on the couch. She put it to her face and breathed in the aroma of her daughter. She snapped out of her daze when her phone chimed. Finn was the one. Finn? She gave a feeble response. What is it? The tone of her nephew's voice was tense and tight. Aunt Poppy, you must visit the hospital. At this moment. Her stomach grew constricted. What has occurred? Is that Lee? Or Steffi? His tone broke as he answered, No. This is Luna. Poppy gasped for air. Her body froze, and her surroundings became hazy. Finn, don't do this to me. Please. I wouldn't, he muttered. Simply come. You must observe yourself. Before she could utter another thing, he hung up. Her shaking hands dropped the phone. As Poppy stood up, her legs hardly supporting her, Luna's scarf flitted to the floor. She simply ran without even thinking to pick up her purse. Int. Day at the university hospital, Finn's office. Finn was waiting outside his office with red-rimmed but steady eyes when Poppy got there. Silent and heavy was the air. Grasping his arm, she said, Finn. Assure me she's not. Gently, he stopped her. Poppy, she's still alive. She felt the impact of those words like a tidal wave. She couldn't believe him for a heartbeat. She shook her head, whispering, No. You're not correct. You must be mistaken. I saw the coroner, the reports, Finn firmly stated, it was a mistake. A misidentification instance. Luna wasn't the woman they discovered. She is here, in the hospital, and she is alive. Poppy's knees gave way. Before she could fall, Finn grabbed her and led her into his office. Alive? She said it again, her voice hardly audible. Is my baby still alive? Finn gave a nod. She has endured a lot, yet she survived. She was discovered frail and hurt, miles outside the city, having escaped the mayhem at the prison. She is currently recovering. A sob, a loud, guttural scream of relief and amazement, escaped Poppy's mouth, and tears streamed down her face. Please take me to her, she begged. Finn just paused for a second. Get ready. She is brittle. She has experienced both emotional and physical trauma. She isn't the Luna you know. Poppy gave his hand a squeeze. She is my daughter. That is the only thing that counts. Int. Moments later in the hospital room. With a creak, the door opened and Poppy entered. Along with the faint beep of medical monitors, the air was filled with the sterile fragrance of antiseptic. There was Luna Nozawa on the bed. Bruised and pale, but definitely alive. Her chest rose and fell steadily as her dark hair fanned across the pillow. Poppy's breathing became labored. Luna. Luna stirred as she heard her mother's voice. Her eyes opened slowly, initially hazy but later keen with recognition. Mom? Her voice was hoarse as she whispered. Poppy's mouth quivered. Yes, sweetheart. It's me. Luna's bottom lip trembled and she started to cry, a little, but visibly, like someone who had clawed her way out of the dark. Rushing to her side, Poppy dropped to her knees and grabbed Luna's hand. She cried, I thought I lost you. I believed I wouldn't see you ever again. I made an effort to reach you, Luna muttered. According to them, you didn't want to see me. Poppy's startled eyes expanded. No. Never, Luna. I stood up for you. I called out for you. You and I would have switched places. By pure will, mother and daughter were reunited as their fingers connected. Finn stood in the doorway and dabbed at his eyes. This one even affected a doctor who was used to miracles. The story of Luna. Luna started to describe her experience as the hours went by. She described a riot, turmoil, and fire in the prison, her voice shaking as she talked. Alarms blasting, guards yelling. She had been aided in her escape by a woman. Luna stared blankly at the ceiling and muttered, She said she knew my mum. She instructed me to run. Finn scowled. Has she mentioned her name? Luna paused. No. She simply owed a favor to my family. However, she appeared to have experienced pain as well. Poppy's forehead wrinkled. Could Sheila have been the one? Finn stiffened. Don't, Mom. Sheila has passed away. Months ago, we verified that. Poppy didn't seem persuaded. She had previously feigned it. We might owe her more than we realize if she assisted Luna in getting away. Finn's mouth tightened. Sheila Carter is not owed anything. Poppy's sorry and guilt. Poppy wouldn't leave Luna's side that evening. Memorizing every breath and every flash of life, she caressed her daughter's hand. Luna whispered faintly, "Mom, I heard rumors about you and Bill Spencer while I was away. Concerning Will. Concerning the infant." Poppy tensed. She didn't think Luna would be aware. "Honey, you need to get some rest." Luna, however, continued. "You really wanted to give them my baby." Poppy's throat became constricted. "Luna, I made mistakes. I believed I was keeping you safe. I had no idea how to assist you from within those confines." Tears clouded Luna's eyes. "You were still attempting to act morally even if you believed I had passed away." "Mom, I understand. I only wish you had thought of me." At that point, Poppy broke totally. "I ought to have," she cried. "I'll make amends for the rest of my life." Luna gave a small smile. "Then begin by staying with me." Poppy pressed her face against her daughter's and swore, "I won't. Never again." Int. Future Day Forrester Creations. The news of Luna's survival spread like wildfire across the Forrester offices. Ridge, Steffi, and Hope huddled in astonished shock. "Alive?" Hope spoke quietly. "After all this time?" Ridge gave a sad nod. "Finn attested to it. He is currently with her." Steffi let out a hesitant breath. "That poor girl has endured enough. All I can hope is that this doesn't lead to additional drama." Hope folded her arms. "Steffi, it's the bold and the beautiful. The drama never stops." Although it was fleeting, their laughter relieved the strain. Steffi was nevertheless secretly concerned about what Luna's homecoming would signify for Finn, Lee, and the tenuous peace they had created. Int. The hospital room in the afternoon. Lee was standing rigidly by the door, her face blank, when Finn came back with her. "I'm glad you're safe, Luna," Lee remarked cautiously. Luna gave a feeble nod. "I am grateful, Dr. Finnegan." Lee had never been one for overt displays of emotion, but her lips quirked. "It will require time for you to heal. However, your cousin and mother are here to support you." Poppy gave her sister-in-law a quick glance. For the first time, they were able to understand one another without animosity. "Thank you, Lee," Poppy murmured. "For everything." Lee turned to Finn after nodding. "Well done, son." Finn gave a small smile. "You don't get to tell a family that their loved one is still alive every day." Lee let out a sigh. "Let's hope there are no repercussions for this miracle." Poppy's personal time. Poppy stood by Luna's hospital room window that night, gazing out at the city lights. A woman who had lost everything and somehow regained it all was staring back at her reflection. Luna woke up in her sleep behind her and spoke quietly. "I won't waste this second chance," Poppy said in a whisper to herself. On the table, her phone buzzed. Bill Spencer was the one. After hesitating, she said softly, "Bill, she's still alive." There was a long pause before Bill's gruff, tearful voice could be heard on the other end. "Grateful," he said. "Poppy, thank God." Her eyes began to well up with tears once more, but this time they were tears of thankfulness rather than sadness. Int. Hallway of the hospital, after. Lost in thought, Finn strolled down the hallway as the night shift started. He halted after passing a nurse's station. A tall, dark, and distinctly feminine figure was standing by the exit. Finn's breath caught for a second. "Sheila?" he muttered. However, the figure vanished as soon as he blinked, leaving behind only a faint reverberation of laughter in the hallway. Epilogue. The hospital was silent by morning. As the first rays of daylight filtered through the blinds, Poppy sat next to Luna's bed and held her hand. She said, "Go to sleep now, baby. The world can wait." One thing was certain while the mother and daughter slept, oblivious to the rumors that were beginning to spread throughout Los Angeles, Luna's homecoming wasn't merely a miracle. The fresh storm was only getting started. Because nobody ever really returns without a reason in this city of lies and love.